The ground shook so hard that my teeth rattled, and before I could even stand up straight, something small and fast knocked my helmet clean off my head. I was on patrol near the nesting cliffs of Vortessa, a rocky planet where the sky was always a soft shade of orange and the wind carried a strange metallic smell. My name is Daniel Wren, and I had been part of the peacekeeping team stationed there for 6 months. We were guests on this planet, working alongside a species the old stories back on Earth would have called dragons. They were massive, covered in shining scales, with wings that could block out the sun when spread wide. I never expected one of them to rob me in broad daylight. The creature that took my helmet was tiny compared to the adults, barely the size of a large dog, with copper-colored scales that caught the light like polished metal. She had grabbed my helmet with sharp little claws and was already halfway up a rock before I even understood what had happened. "Hey, come back here," I shouted, though I knew it was useless. She could not understand a word I said, and even if she could, she clearly had no intention of listening. The hatchling perched high on the rock, holding my helmet like a trophy, and let out a proud little screech that echoed across the cliffs. My heart was pounding, not from fear, but from the sudden rush of adrenaline. Losing that helmet was not just embarrassing, it was dangerous. Without it, my communication signal would be cut off from the base, and if anything went wrong out here, no one would know where to find me. I took a step closer, trying to stay calm. "Easy there, I just need that back." She tilted her head, studying me with bright golden eyes, then let out another sharp sound, almost like laughter, before scrambling further up the rocky slope. I followed, my boots slipping on the loose stones, my breath coming faster with every step. The cliffs here were steep, and one wrong move could send me tumbling down into the ravine below. As I climbed, dark clouds began rolling in from the horizon. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain and something else, something electric, like the air before a storm. I had read about the storms on this planet during training. They could bring sudden lightning strikes powerful enough to disable equipment. If my communication device stopped working while I was out here alone, chasing a hatchling across dangerous cliffs, I would be completely cut off. "Come on," I muttered, pushing myself faster. "I do not have time for this." The hatchling did not seem to care about my problem. She hopped from rock to rock with surprising speed, my helmet swinging from her mouth now, her wings still too small to fly but strong enough to help her balance, as she leaped across gaps that would have taken a careful, slow approach for someone with 2 legs and no scales. Thunder rumbled overhead, closer this time. I glanced up and saw the first flash of lightning streak across the sky, far in the distance but moving closer with alarming speed. My chest tightened. I needed that helmet back before the storm hit, or I would be in serious trouble. I reached a ledge just below where she had stopped, and I tried a different approach. Instead of chasing her, I sat down on a flat rock and pulled out a small ration bar from my pocket. I held it out toward her, hoping she would trade. She sniffed the air, curious, then climbed a little closer, her golden eyes locked onto the bar. For a moment, I thought it might actually work. Then she snatched the bar from my hand with lightning-quick reflexes, took one bite, decided she did not like it, and threw it off the cliff without a second thought. "That was my lunch," I said, half laughing despite the tension building in my chest. The wind grew stronger, pulling at my jacket, and the first drops of rain began to fall. I knew I needed to make a decision fast. Climbing further up in this weather was risky, but leaving without my helmet meant walking back to base with no way to call for help if something happened along the way. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Wing beats, heavy and fast, cutting through the wind. I turned just in time to see a massive shape descending from the clouds, wings spread wide, scales shimmering even under the gray sky. It was an adult, easily 4 times my height, gliding down toward the cliffs with terrifying speed and grace. For a second, my mind raced through every possible outcome. Adults were protective of their young, and I had been chasing a hatchling across dangerous terrain during a storm. This could go very badly, very quickly. The adult landed with a heavy thud that shook the rocks beneath my feet, folding her wings against her back as she turned her sharp gaze toward me. A collar around her neck buzzed softly, translating her deep voice into words I could understand. "You are chasing my daughter," she said, her tone sharp enough to make my stomach drop. "I was not chasing her to hurt her," I said quickly, raising my hands to show I meant no harm. "She took something of mine, my helmet. I need it back before the storm gets worse." The mother's eyes flicked toward the hatchling, who was still perched above us, clutching the helmet tightly, watching the entire scene with obvious excitement, as if this were the most entertaining thing she had seen all week. The mother let out a low sound, somewhere between a growl and a sigh. She does this. She takes things that interest her. It is difficult to change her mind once she decides something belongs to her. Lightning cracked across the sky, closer now, lighting up the clouds in a brilliant flash. The thunder that followed was loud enough to make me flinch. Time was running out, and I could feel my nerves tightening with every passing second. "I understand she is curious," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the storm growing around us. "But I really need that helmet. Without it, I cannot contact my base, and if this storm gets any worse, I could be in real danger out here." The mother studied me for a long moment, rain now falling steadily around us, soaking through my jacket. Then she turned toward her daughter and spoke in a language full of clicks and low rumbles that I could not understand. The hatchling squawked in protest, clutching the helmet even tighter, refusing to budge. "She says it is hers now," the mother explained, a hint of amusement slipping into her voice despite the seriousness of the situation. "She does not want to give it up." I felt a strange mix of frustration and disbelief. Here I was, standing on a cliff during a dangerous storm, negotiating with a giant creature over a stolen piece of equipment because her child refused to share. "Please," I said, raising my voice slightly over the wind, "tell her I will trade something else for it. Anything she wants, but I need that helmet." The mother relayed the message, and the hatchling paused, tilting her head, as if considering the offer. Then her eyes landed on the small metal badge pinned to my jacket, a symbol of my unit that I had worn proudly since the day I joined. It was not valuable in any practical sense, but it shined brightly, catching the little light that filtered through the storm clouds. I sighed, unclipping the badge from my jacket. "Fine, take this instead." I held it up, letting the metal catch the light one more time, before tossing it gently toward the ledge where she sat. The hatchling's eyes widened with excitement, and without hesitation, she dropped the helmet and darted forward to grab the badge, turning it over in her claws with obvious delight. The helmet rolled toward the edge of the ledge, and my heart nearly stopped as I lunged forward, catching it just before it could tumble down into the ravine below. Relief flooded through me as I clutched it tightly against my chest, the rain pouring down harder now, soaking every part of me. The mother watched the exchange with what almost looked like approval. "You are clever," she said. "Most of your kind would have tried to fight for it." Fighting did not seem like a good idea, I admitted, breathing heavily from the climb and the tension of the last few minutes, especially not against someone her size. The mother let out a sound that I realized, after a moment, was laughter. "She likes you. That is rare. She does not warm up to strangers easily." I glanced up at the hatchling, who was now happily playing with the badge, completely uninterested in me or the storm raging around us. I could not help but smile, despite the exhaustion settling into my legs. "Well, I am glad we could work something out," I said, securing the helmet back onto my head, feeling the familiar weight settle into place. The communication signal flickered back to life inside my ear, and I let out a breath of relief. The storm was growing worse, and I knew I needed to get back to base quickly. The mother spread her wings, preparing to take flight, but before she did, she looked at me one more time. "Come back another day," she said, She will remember you." With that, she scooped up her daughter gently in one claw and rose into the stormy sky, disappearing into the clouds within seconds. I stood there for a moment, rain streaming down my face, my helmet safely back where it belonged, and could not help but laugh at how strange the entire situation had been. I made my way back down the cliffs carefully, the storm chasing at my heels the entire way, but my mind kept replaying the encounter. A creature large enough to crush me without effort had shown patience and even humor over something as simple as a stolen helmet. By the time I reached the base, soaked and tired, my commanding officer took one look at me and asked what had happened. I told him the truth, that I had been outsmarted by a hatchling and had to trade my badge to get my helmet back. He did not believe me at first, not until 3 days later when the same little hatchling showed up near the base fence, dropping a shiny stone at my feet as a gift, clearly expecting something in return. I learned quickly that some bonds form in the strangest ways, even between two very different kinds of creatures standing on opposite sides of the sky.